You already know what love feels like. Someone who looked at you like you were the only person in the room, who remembered everything you said, who made you feel, maybe for the first time, completely and utterly chosen. You think you understand what that was. That feeling is exactly what makes love bombing so dangerous. Because love bombing is not affection. It is not passion. It is not even obsession in the romantic sense that movies taught you to accept. It is a psychological operation, engineered, deliberate, executed with a precision most people never detect. Not during, not after, sometimes not ever. The image you carry of love bombing is probably roses, excessive texting, someone who moves too fast, something you'd recognize. That image is wrong. The people who do this most effectively don't look like anything you've been warned about. They look like the best thing that ever happened to you. They feel like home. And by the time the structure beneath that feeling reveals itself, you are already inside it. Before we go further, 3 facts that will completely reframe everything you thought you knew about how humans fall in love. 1. Your brain cannot distinguish, chemically, between genuine love and love bombing. Both flood the brain with dopamine. Both activate identical reward circuits. Both produce the same obsessive thinking, the same inability to concentrate on anything else. Neuroscientists studying romantic love found that brain scans of people falling in love were nearly identical to brain scans of cocaine addiction. The love bomber knows this, not always consciously, but they know that if they manufacture the intensity, your brain will do the rest. Your own brain becomes the weapon used against you. 2. Research published in Personality and Individual Differences found that love-bombing behaviors overlap significantly with people who simply carry anxious attachment, fear of abandonment, or deep wounds around worthiness. The person doing it may genuinely believe every word in the moment. That makes it harder to see, harder to leave, and far more dangerous, not less. 3. Love bombing has a second phase, and the second phase is the entire point. The overwhelming warmth, the intensity, the feeling of being chosen. That is not the destination. That is the setup. What follows? The withdrawal, the sudden coldness, the criticism arriving without explanation, is designed to make you chase the original feeling. Psychologists call this intermittent reinforcement. A rat rewarded randomly presses the lever far more desperately than one rewarded every time. You are not a rat, but your nervous system runs on the same ancient wiring. To understand love bombing, you have to understand what it targets. Not your loneliness, not your naivety. It targets the most fundamental human need that exists, the need to be seen. Love bombers find people who carry that unmet need the way water finds cracks in concrete. They ask questions nobody else asks. They remember details nobody else remembers. They create, in the earliest interactions, the overwhelming sensation that this person uniquely, completely understands you. That sensation is not an accident. It is the opening move. No case communicates what love bombing actually does better than what happened in San Diego in 2018. A woman, her name withheld, her case documented by psychologist Dr. Ramani Durvasula in published clinical work, met a man through mutual friends. Within 72 hours, he had sent 34 messages, thoughtful ones. He remembered a book she mentioned in passing and bought it. Within 3 weeks, he told her she was the person he had been waiting for his entire life. Within 2 months, she had told her sister, who raised concerns, that her sister simply didn't understand what they had. That last sentence is the one that matters. That is not weakness. That is a woman whose attachment system had been so precisely activated that the people who could still see clearly had begun to look like the threat. The isolation was not forced. It was constructed from the inside. 6 months later, without explanation, without incident, the intensity withdrew. He became distant, critical, cold in ways that felt like punishment for offenses she couldn't identify. Mara spent the next 4 months trying to get back to the first 6 weeks. She changed her behavior. She asked less. She gave more. She monitored her own words for whatever had caused the shift. By the time she left, she did not recognize herself. This is the detail that never makes it into conversations about toxic relationships. The damage is not done during the withdrawal. The damage is done during the love bombing. The withdrawal only works because the foundation was already built. By the time the coldness arrives, the architecture is complete. You are not held in place by fear. You are held in place by the memory of how it felt. Research from the University of Alabama analyzing 600 survivors of psychological abuse found that 94% described an early period of overwhelming positive attention. Nearly all reported that the memory of that period was the primary reason they stayed through what followed. They were not staying despite the early love. They were staying because of it. The love bombing was not the relationship before the abuse began. The love bombing was the first act of the abuse. There is a version of this that ends with a checklist. 10 signs you're being love bombed. 5 ways to protect yourself. That is not what we're doing today. Because knowing the word does not protect you from the feeling. The most effective love bombing is indistinguishable from genuine connection. Because the conversations were real. The vulnerability was real, and your brain does not put an asterisk next to manufactured attachment. It just attaches. The warning signs people list, too fast, too intense, too much, are also the characteristics of every great love story ever told. That is not a coincidence. Love bombing is expanding, not because people are becoming crueler, because the conditions that produce it are multiplying. Dating apps have compressed courtship into environments built for rapid impression management. Loneliness has reached levels researchers describe as a public health crisis. More people are hungry. More people have learned the language of feeding that hunger. And in that gap, between how connected people are told they should feel and how isolated they actually do, love bombing finds its most fertile ground. The most important thing to understand about love bombing is not how to spot it. It is what it reveals. It reveals that the most sophisticated manipulation available to one human being does not use fear or force or conventional deception. It uses love, the shape of it, the architecture of it, constructed precisely enough that your nervous system, your deepest need to be chosen and seen and held, cannot tell the difference. What evolution built in humans is extraordinary. An animal capable of profound, genuine tenderness, and an animal capable of weaponizing that tenderness with a precision no other species on Earth can match. The distance between being loved and being love-bombed is almost always smaller than you think. And by the time you know how small it is, you are already attached.